Right now on News 3, the Wisconsin crop report is set to come out tomorrow. How the devastating floods is affecting local farmers.
And evacuations now underway. Hurricane Florence strengthening and taking aim at the southeastern United States.
This is News 3 at 10.
Thanks for joining us tonight. It could take years for local farmers to recover from this year's flooding.
The water took out crops, damaged soil, and may have killed the entire year's profits. Amy Reed joins us now from the News Center to show us how this could affect you, and to show us all of that and more. Amy?
Yeah, Charlotte, farmers know their job is entirely dependent on the weather. Too much or too little rain can completely change how their year goes, but that doesn't make a big event like this any easier to take. And that applies to growers who provide for a country or a family.
This is my pot here, and you see what happened to...
John Carey has never seen this.
This is what's left of these tomatoes, and I'm not going to eat any of these.
The work of an entire summer gone.
All these leaves turned black and withered, and these aren't considered safe to eat, so.
Weeks ago, 2 feet of water covered the Shorewood Hills community garden. Not knowing what contaminants could be in the flood, researchers said all the lettuce, all the tomatoes, all of any vegetable that was submerged is unsafe. A loss for any hobby farmer.
Sad to see it all washed away.
But imagine that for a whole field.
The stories I heard is water right up to the tops of the corn, like 6, 7, 8 feet of water. And so, yeah, those crops are in serious trouble.
The work of a year wiped out with a single storm. Many of these fields were insured, but just like with a house or a business, anything before the deductible comes out of their pocket. Even more devastating than the market they were facing.
We're in a tight financial situation for most of these growers, and this is going to exacerbate the problem for several of them.
Researcher Paul Mitchell worries about the stress on farmers as they deal with the problems that could last many seasons into the future. And recovery won't fix everything.
This is not the core of the problem. The core of the problem is oversupply. The flood is just making a bad situation worse for the people that are immediately affected.
For hobby farmers, the problems don't branch as far. This year's crops are a loss for them and their community, but they know things could have been worse.
You know, a lot of people lost their homes in Shorewood. These are just vegetables, so nobody got hurt here.
Now, it's illegal to sell produce that could have been contaminated, so you may be seeing the hit from this at the farmers market this weekend. So be careful with your fruits and veggies. Make sure they look and smell good before you eat them.
Some good advice. Amy Reed reporting tonight. Amy, thank you.
Water receding in Sauk County. People who live there are able to have their homes assessed now if they were damaged by flooding. Emergency management directors were going house to house today, visiting the homes that have been classified as destroyed or having major damage. Emergency management will gather this information to put together a statewide application for the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Once officials with FEMA receive the state's application, they'll decide whether to make a disaster declaration. In Marquette County, the city of Montello says 150 structures in the city have been affected by flooding. 13 families have been displaced so far there. They're estimating nearly $1 million in property damage, as well as over $2 million in crop damage. Here's something that'll make downtown Madison drivers happy. One lane of East Johnson in each direction is now open after the flooding. There's still some standing water there in the other lane, so you're asked to keep things slow when you go through that area, but crews will remove the flood-related parking restrictions as well on Willie Street tomorrow morning.
As the water recedes, many areas still have standing water. Veterinarians say bacteria in those puddles is causing an increase in cases of leptospirosis, or lepto, in pets. This bacteria is always present, but it's much more prevalent as we enter fall. And on top of that, the standing water is making it easier for it to survive. Lepto can cause liver and kidney failure in dogs, becoming deadly if not treated early. Local veterinarians say they usually see about a handful of cases each year, but they've already seen that many in just the last couple weeks. Veterinarians are recommending a vaccination.
It won't definitively protect them from having the disease, but it certainly will make it a much less severe and probably less likely to be life-threatening.
Lepto is not one of the common vaccinations, so many dog owners don't think about getting it. But Dr. Bates says the bacteria is transmitted through the urine of rodents, so it really is everywhere. The standing water is simply making it worse.
More much-needed dry weather today and tonight. A little treat. If it's clear, a chance to see the northern lights. For more on that, we check in with meteorologist Gary Canalti, our first alert forecast. Gary?
Eric, it does look like the northern lights may be visible, and the weather should be perfect for seeing them with skies being clear. But take a look at the latest forecast from the Space Weather Prediction Center, calling for the northern lights to be visible, certainly through the far northern parts of the United States. And the southern edge could be about as far south as northern Illinois or southern Wisconsin, at least according to the latest forecast. Now, the best viewing time should be between about 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. with mostly clear skies expected. Just look to the north, but try to get as far away from city lights as possible. That will make it easier to see them. Otherwise, weather tracks is very little in the way of cloud cover across Wisconsin. Low temperatures this morning, rather chilly thanks to the clear skies and light winds, down to 35 in Black River Falls and 37 in Camp Douglas. Here in Madison, we fell to 46 degrees, but high temperatures are generally in the low to mid 70s, a little cooler closer to Lake Michigan, a little warmer closer to the Mississippi River, and current temperatures now are in the lower to middle 50s with a few 60s out toward the Mississippi River. Dew point temperatures still in the lower 50s, so expect temperatures to fall a few degrees further. By tomorrow morning, look for temperatures to be down to around the 50-degree mark. Look for sunny skies tomorrow. Another pleasant day with a high of 76. That's your first alert forecast.
Gary, thank you. And another big weather story. Hurricane Florence has grown into a Category 4 storm and is now taking aim at the southeastern United States. It is expected to make landfall by Friday, bringing with it devastating rains, wind, and flooding. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster has ordered an evacuation of his state's entire coastline. 1 million people from 8 counties are expected to head inland. In North Carolina, parts of the Outer Banks are also being evacuated, and the U.S. Navy taking no chances. Its entire fleet at the Norfolk Naval Base has been ordered out to sea, out of the path of Hurricane Florence.
A man accused of shooting Nerf gun darts modified with needles at his stepchildren made his first appearance in court today. 33-year-old Brian Alexander faces 3 counts of child abuse. The children involved were between 6 and 9 years old. Alexander's cash bond was set at $1,000. According to court documents, authorities first heard about the alleged abuse earlier this month. They say it happened multiple times over the past year at a home in the town of Lewiston. New tonight, the remains found in the Mississippi River in southeastern Minnesota have been identified as those of a missing Wisconsin sailor. DNA tests of the remains found on July 14th confirmed they're those of 61-year-old David Sheridan of Pepin. He was last seen in April on his sailboat in Lake Pepin. His boat was found unoccupied with the motor running the next day.
The Madison Midtown Police Station is now officially open. Officials say the space still needs some finishing touches, but should serve them well. The building also marks a change in the Madison PD's districts. The Midtown District took some of the Southwest and Central District's geographic area and responsibilities. Officials say this will help them better serve the area's residents. UW-Madison has once again been ranked in the top 20 public institutions. This is according to the U.S. News & World Report. The annual America's Best College Report ranks the UW as the 15th best overall public university, 49th overall. Those numbers are actually down from last year. More than 300 doctoral colleges were ranked. Traffic note tonight, the westbound lanes of the Beltline at the interstate will be closed overnight for most of the week. The State Department of Transportation closing the westbound lanes from 8 p.m. to 4:30 a.m. for maintenance. That starts tonight. It'll run through Friday morning. The northbound interstate ramp onto the Beltline and the westbound Highway 12 on-ramp to the southbound interstate will be closed.
Today is World Suicide Prevention Day. It is a day to increase awareness and promote action to prevent people from dying by suicide. One woman in Marshall shared her heartbreaking story with us about losing her own father and brother to suicide just 5 years apart. Her dad was 46-year-old. Her brother was 25. She says it is the hardest thing she's ever experienced and is now making it her goal to prevent it from happening again within her own family.
I think it starts with me, and it starts with the conversation. It starts with, I'm working with my almost 3-year-old now. I'm like identifying her feelings. When we get mad, what do? We got to get all the anger out. What do? We say, I'm angry, and we get it all out.
Amy says her family is first and foremost, but she plans on going back to school to get her master's in counseling to work with suicide prevention in the future. If you or someone you know has thought or is thinking about suicide, there are people to talk to. Call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at the bottom of your screen there. There are people who care and can help. Still to come tonight, many parents may be concerned by the amount of time their kids spend playing games on their phones or tablets.
But UW researchers have some good news. The story next at 10.
If you're a parent like us, this won't surprise you. Kids on average spend more than an hour every day playing video games.
What might surprise you, however, is how these games can change children's brains for the better, according to new UW-Madison research. Our Madeline O'Neill tells us more only on News 3.
Our mission is really to improve lives.
Here at Gear Learning at UW-Madison, that's done by creating worlds.
We haven't had a failure yet.
Worlds that take you to outer space and foreign places, exploring concepts ranging from immunotherapy to implicit bias.
I'm trying to fly away.
This game is At Play in the Cosmos, designed to help college students understand astronomy.
I like it.
But younger players are picking it up too.
That's super awesome.
You could learn about stuff by using games, by not just having fun, but learning.
My hope is that education looks very different than it does today. What's the new system called?
Gear Learning's director Mike Beal heads a team designing the future of education.
Designing a game is hard. Designing a game people like is even harder. Designing a game to teach something, even harder yet.
A unique challenge.
So no words, no text.
came from Professor Richard Davidson, who leads UW-Madison's Center for Healthy Minds.
This was a very ambitious study.
Davidson wants to build empathy and generosity in children.
Right there.
So you look to what's already grabbing their attention.
This technology is certainly not going to go away.
I kind of like it.
About 6 years ago, Beal and developers got to work, collaborating with experts to build crystals of Cador from the ground up.
It's a monumental undertaking.
They drew out the premise. The player is a robot sent to a planet hundreds of light years away.
But right off the bat, you land on this planet, you encounter an alien, the alien's crying. It's sad.
Developers built a system where they could control every muscle on the alien's face so players could pick up on nonverbal cues of emotion.
Can you help them not be sad?
The game's goal is to improve the aliens' lives while bettering the players as well.
These kinds of social and emotional skills at this age of life are better predictors of long-term adult success in life than grades, IQ, and standardized test scores all put together.
A study looking into the game's effects found that after 2 weeks, some middle schoolers who played Crystals of Cador instead of a control game showed greater connectivity in brain areas related to empathy. These students showed the biggest improvements on an empathy behavior test as well.
That's interesting because it suggests that there were elements of the game that were responsible for producing these changes.
It's only been in the last decade or so, and certainly since we were working with Richie Davidson, that we realized games could have a higher purpose, which is pretty wonderful.
It's fuel for Beal and his team to not just design video game worlds, but to build a better future in ours.
I can honestly tell you that because of my experiences here, I'm much more in tune and much more aware of how people are feeling around me.
In Madison,
Go ahead and hit next.
Madeline O'Neill, WISC News 3.
Davidson said games like this could have implications for kids on the autism spectrum who may have difficulty reading emotion.
He's currently hoping to work with a game manufacturer to further develop this game concept and make it available on the market.
Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti joining us now, no doubt keeping an eye on Hurricane Florence, because around here it's just smooth sailing right now.
And indirectly, we're going to benefit from Hurricane Florence because as that moves close to the U.S. East Coast, it'll slow down the weather systems and keep us high and dry, at least through the weekend. Let's start out by taking a look, first of all, at the 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook. We've been waiting, for such a long period of dry weather. Well, we've had it since last Thursday, and it looks like it'll continue this week and into the weekend. And even in the 6 to 10 day outlook period, below normal precipitation expected either here or just to our south and to our east. And there'll be kind of a narrow area between the above normal precipitation expected along the east coast, mainly because of Florence, and then an above normal area of precipitation, a slightly lower chance of that to our north and west, where the weather systems will be backed up, and then wherever that high pressure system is in between, that's where the least amount of precipitation will fall. The 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook, again, keeps the higher percentage chances of above normal precipitation to our west and also to our east. Temperature-wise, we should be warm at least through the middle part of next week, but then there are signs that we will see some cooler weather toward the end of next week, and the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook shows at least a little better chance of above or below normal temperatures here. Much of the rest of the country, though, still seeing above normal temperatures, and I don't see a big pattern change beyond that. Live view from the Edgewater Skycam downtown Madison. It's a very comfortable evening, a little on the cool side, but hey, that's not bad at all. Low this morning, 46 degrees, but our high temperature made it up to 73, and right now we're at 53. The air is calm, the humidity at 93%, so temperatures probably only drop close to that dew point, which would be somewhere around the 50-degree mark. Now, as we look at tropical weather tracking, this looks like it's just updating here as we get new information from the National Hurricane Center. This is Hurricane Florence with maximum sustained winds 140 miles per hour, moving west-northwest at 13 miles per hour. Now, the latest forecast track takes it to the northwest and then eventually into probably somewhere into North Carolina, and then keeps it as a fairly strong tropical weather system even as it moves inland. So not only is it going to bring strong winds, of course very strong winds when it hits the coast, but even after it moves inland, we'll still keep strong winds with storm surges along the east coast. But the slowing down will also bring very heavy amounts of rain, probably from the Carolinas northward into at least the area around Washington, D.C., and maybe even farther north toward New York. But ahead of it, that's where things will kind of settle down, and that's where we are. High pressure will build there, and you can see as Florence starts to move To the west, you can see the upper level winds kind of steering in that direction, but high pressure will keep the quiet blocking pattern in place. That high center just to our south and to our west, and you can see how clear the skies are ahead of that system, and that's right where we are. So that means our weather will stay pretty much as it is, at least for the foreseeable future. So our forecast for tonight calls for mostly clear skies, comfortably cool temperatures, low dropping to 50. Tomorrow's high at 76 degrees with mostly sunny skies. As we look at future track, things very quiet. Overnight, look for a low of 50. High temperatures tomorrow in the mid-70s with mostly sunny skies. Tomorrow night, mostly clear. Low temperatures in the mid-50s. Wednesday, maybe a few more clouds, so we'll call it partly sunny. High temperatures will be in the middle to the upper 70s. 7 to 10 day forecast, you can see those temperatures remaining very comfortable. Upper 70s to around 80 degrees through Friday. Lots of sunshine. The weekend dry. High temperatures around 80 or a little bit above. Chance of a shower or thunderstorm Monday. Slight chance. A little better chance Tuesday as the cold front comes through, and slightly cooler weather after that. But not a lot of rain in there. A lot of comfortable weather.
And we need this.
We do. We need as much dry weather as we can get right now.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Gary. It is a big one between the Brewers and Cubs tonight. The highlights from Wrigley Field coming your way next in sports.
News.
All right, so this is the one that Brewers fans have been looking forward to, given the series sweep over the Giants yesterday. Brewers-Cubs at Wrigley for a 3-game series. Not the most exciting of highlights to start. A lot of back and forth, naturally. It was tied until the 6th. Carl Edwards Jr. throwing a wild one, so Mike Moustakas beats the throw for the go-ahead run. That's where we stand right now, bottom of the 9th. 2 outs, the Cubs with a man on. It's gonna be all night, isn't it? Ugh, not jinxing it. Moving on now. What a time to be alive and witness the fourth quarter of the Bears-Packers game last night. In case you missed it, here's an idea of how epic it was. A basically one-legged Aaron Rodgers threw for 273 yards in the second half alone. That's more than 19 starting quarterbacks had in their entire games in Week 1. Now, after last night's game, Aaron Rodgers giving no indication that he wouldn't play against the Vikings on Sunday, but that's not exactly entirely up to him. So you can imagine the barrage of questions about his left knee today at head coach Mike McCarthy's usual Monday presser. And the answers, well, not very certain at all.
We're still collecting all the information on his specific situation. And, you know, I know Aaron wants to play and is always driven to play, but that's all I have for right now.
Mike, when will that collection process be concluded?
We're working on it. That's all I have for right now. I mean, it's, if the next 4 questions are going to be the same, I mean, just ditto the answer. I mean, really, we are where we are.
Back here in Madison, Badgers now 2-0 going into this Saturday's game against BYU. Kickoff at 2:30 at Camp Randall, and one face returning to the field. Badgers wide receiver Danny Davis will play this Saturday. Davis was suspended for 2 games for his involvement in the Quintus Cephas case. Cephas is still suspended. Davis will add to the wideout core that was being held up by A.J. Taylor and Kendrick Pryor so far.
He's a guy that's played in games before and made plays, and so I think that he gives you, you know, some depth, and certainly, you know, he's different than any of the receivers we're playing with right now. As far as Danny, you know, suspension is served, and he'll be ready to go.
And the Badgers' first road test in 2 weeks is going to be a tough one at Kinnick Stadium at night. Kickoff announced today, 7:30 p.m. Now, that environment has proved to be a difficult one. The Hawkeyes beat 6th-ranked Ohio State on their home turf last year, and Michigan in 2016 when the Wolverines were ranked 2nd in the country at the time. Finally tonight, halftime of Saturday's USL game in Vegas. How appropriate is it that this is in Vegas, by the way? A helicopter dropping $5,000 down to 200 pre-selected fans that were on the field, who were all challenged to pick up as much cash as they could. Now, according to the paper there, $3,000 were dropped in $1 bills, and the remaining $2,000 in $5, $10, $20, and $100 bills. By the way, Cubs just won, or Brewers rather just won, 3-2. I'm getting 3-2 the final score. They hang on to win the first game of the 3-game series. We'll be right back.
Gary's here with a final check of your forecast.
Remember, with the clear skies tonight, you might be able to see the northern lights. Otherwise, we're looking at a very nice forecast. Lots of sunshine, temperatures very comfortable. Mid-70s tomorrow, upper 70s Wednesday, around 80 Thursday, Friday, low 80s for the weekend. Next chance of rain early next week, and even then upper 70s to around 80 degrees, then a little cooler after that. Temperatures, though, like I say, within a few degrees of normal for the most part. That's really nice.
Absolutely beautiful forecast. Gary, thank you very much. And thank you for joining us tonight for News 3 at 10.
Do something good, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
Making plans that are weather dependent? Get an accurate 12-hour, even a 10-day forecast. Download the Channel 3000 First Alert Weather app and start planning.